Mark Feinsand with us on this Thanksgiving Eve. Mark, good morning to you. We had a little Mets conversation to start the program regarding Trevor Bauer, some of the high-profile free agents. Everybody's playing the guessing game with Steve Cohen in place as the deepest-pocketed owner in baseball now. What is the immediate direction of now a very interesting franchise?
Well, the immediate direction is pointing upwards, obviously. You know, they finally have a situation where they can spend money at will. And, you know, Sandy Alderson said it last week during their introductory press conference that from now on, they're not going to be out of a player because it costs too much. They're going to be out on a player because they don't want that player or don't think it's the right fit. And so when you look at these big free agents that are out there right now, Real Muto's been the one that seems like he's been the best fit all along. And I think he is obviously a great fit for the Mets. But Springer, all of a sudden, might be just as good of a fit because with Robinson Cano's suspension, you can move Jeff McNeil back to the infield, move Brandon Nimmo over to play left, and all of a sudden you've got an opening in center field that George Springer would fill quite nicely. So, you know, I've spoken to a lot of people who believe the Mets could go out and sign two of these big free agents. Could be Bauer and one of the position players, could be Springer and Real Muto. But the fact that we're even discussing this is certainly a new trend for an organization that for a long time has not been out there on the huge free agents.
You know, Mark, everybody, and I get what you're saying because I know that Steve Cohen, he's got deep pockets. But there has to be limitations somewhere. So, you know, what Sandy said about, okay, if we don't get a guy, it's because we don't want one. I mean, I got to look at 4 of those free agents that we're talking about or 5 of those free agents saying, I want all of them. But there's got to be limits somewhere in there, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to go have a $300 million payroll and, you know, sign 5 players who are going to cost them a combined $130 million or more. But just the idea that, you know, the Mets had never really been, when you think about the big free agents that were out there on the market, they were never really a player for any of them in the last 10 years, right? And they have to sit there and watch the Yankees sign Garrett Cole and watch, you know, other teams go out and give these big contracts. Watch the Phillies sign Bryce Harper. And now they're in a position where at least they're in the conversation on every one of these guys. They may not want every one of these guys. They're certainly not going to get every one of these guys. I mean, the Yankees and Dodgers have the biggest payrolls in the game, and they're not the ones out there signing every big free agent. But they always have the ability to do so if they think that's the way they should go. And now the Mets are in that category of if they feel that there is a player out there on the free agent market that's going to markedly help them take that next step, they have the financial wherewithal to go and get him if that's what they choose to do.
You know, we talk about, and we had this Blue Jays discussion as well in talking about, you know, 2 teams that were anticipating doing some spending this winter. Again, we don't know anything about the climate because of all the restrictions put on teams and schedules regarding the pandemic. If you were to guess of one team that could outspend the other, do the Mets spend more money than the Blue Jays? Is that a safe assumption to make?
I would think so. I think both teams are going to be active. I think both teams are going to be in on a lot of these guys. I think besides the deep pockets of Steve Cohen, New York is probably a more appealing place to play for a lot of players than Toronto, especially given the uncertainty with the pandemic. People don't even know if the Blue Jays are going to be playing their games in Toronto or Buffalo again. So I would think that the Mets would be a more appealing destination for a big free agent. But I do think the Blue Jays are going to be in on some of these guys. We've already heard them attached to Real Muto and Springer and LeMahieu. Our buddy Ken Rosenthal said that they've spoken to the agents for Michael Brantley and Justin Turner. So the Blue Jays are out there. They're actively trying to get better. They have this young core of players. And, you know, clearly they see a window here where the Red Sox might be in, I don't want to say a full rebuild, but certainly a bit of a rebuilding mode. You know, the Rays just lost Charlie Morton. They're talking about trading Blake Snell. So really the Yankees are the team that they're looking at and saying, we need to get past this team or at least just finish second and get a wild card. And there's a window here for the Blue Jays to really compete.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth in terms of the AL East. Let me tee you up on one specific player since we're talking Mets and Blue Jays. You could draw a line between Francisco Lindor and both of those teams. And I, for one, feel like the fit in Toronto is so good, it has to be explored. And I'm sure there are conversations that we're not privy to that have already been well underway. Talk about Lindor to the Jays, the potential of that happening, and what would that compensation package look like going back to Cleveland?
The one thing about trading for Lindor is you have to first approach it and say, am I trading for him as a one-year rental player, aware that he's going to be leaving next year, or am I trading for him with the idea that I'm going to sign him to some mega extension and keep him around here for the next 6, 7, 8 years? I'm not sure the Blue Jays can trade for him with the thought of, we're going to keep him around here for the next, 7, 8 years. So if they're willing to trade for him for the 1 year and really go all in for 2021, I think it's a great fit. The Mets are a team that I think, with their financial situation with the new owner and being in a big market, which can obviously offer him, endorsement deals and all that kind of thing. The Mets are a team where I think they could trade for Lindor and say, sort of like the Dodgers did with Mookie Betts, we're trading for this guy with 1 year left on his deal, but our plan is to have him here for a lot longer than that. As far as what would go back, again, I think the fact that he's only got 1 year left on his contract and there are no guarantees unless there's some sort of a window granted to sign him to an extension, it's tough to see what teams are going to give up. You look at the package that the Red Sox got for Betts, that was a pretty good deal. You look at some of the other 1 year rental type packages, Cleveland's not going to give him away, but with only 1 year left and no guarantee of extending him, I don't know that you're going to be able to land a team's, 2 or 3 top prospects.